Only you control your future, Jaden. And the real question is, what do you want from it?
To rise above all. To take a blood name and lead my own cluster in the name of Smoke Jaguar.
Make Karinsky look over your glorious rise, Kid Jaden. Good hunting.
In today's video, we're going to take a quick look at MechWarrior 5 Clans on PC on an RTX 4090 Ryzen 7800X3D, the Game Pass version to be more precise, which from what I've been told is an older version versus the Steam version. So this is becoming a frustrating trend, but apparently the Steam version has DLSS frame generation, whereas this one does not. But there's some strange things when it comes to DLSS and FSR actually, which this game does support, by the way. It is an Unreal Engine 5 game. I think it looks pretty good. It has a fully voiced and decently acted campaign. It does have co-op, as a matter of fact. That's kind of advertised as its highlight. I haven't yet played the game in co-op, but it plays just fine in single player, no problem. You have your mech, and then you control a team of 4 as well, which you can issue commands to pretty quickly on the battlefield, or you can open up a battlefield map and issue commands more like a strategy game too if you wanted to, which is cool. You have a lot of control over what happens. There's also a lot of RPG type of mechanics as well. You can essentially customize all your mechs in your party. You can level up your pilots and have them specialize, spend experience points, upgrade your weapons, buy new weapons, research new stuff. It's pretty cool. There's a lot to this game. So yeah, that's why I've been looking forward to it. I used to play the OG Xbox MechWarrior. It's been around for a long time, and I always enjoyed the more simulation approach to controlling a mech versus something that's more arcadey, like Armored Core, for example. So I do like MechWarrior as a series, as a franchise. I've had some pretty good times with it.
MechWarrior Lian, you disgraced your namesake with such vulgarity. I will not tolerate it. Compose yourself.
Now, there is some cringy dialogue and some cringy characters, but for the most part, it's actually very well acted, and characters are quite interesting, actually. But the controls is kind of a highlight that I wanted to talk about, and an issue with the controls as well. Unlike Armored Core, for example, MechWarrior is supposed to be more of a sim-oriented approach, and they've actually given us 2 methods of controlling your mech. There's modernized and classic. Now, if you played a MechWarrior game before, you will know what classic is, but let's quickly go over modernized first, because this is a method of controlling your mech that most people will be familiar with. It plays like any third-person shooter. You move forward, and then you look left or right with your camera, and the mech turns that way. You let go, you stop moving forward, the mech will come to a halt. So that's modernized controls. The game is set to that by default, by the way. Classic is more of a simulation approach to controlling your mech. Essentially, you can control the upper torso and the legs independently. So moving forward and back sets the speed. Think of it like a throttle stick, right? You don't have to hold the button to move forward. You set the speed. So for example, right now I set it to 50, and then I can let go of pressing forward. The mech will just keep going straight, and moving the camera, adjust the upper torso to aim. The mech will not change direction that way. It'll only change direction if you press A or D on the keyboard, or move your left joystick left or right, essentially. So yeah, I think this gives you more precise of your mech, and it's probably what you'd use if you were to use a throttle and stick setup. Now the problem with controls, at least in this version of the game, is that the mouse doesn't really work the way it's supposed to. It's strange. So basically, I'm moving the mouse right and then left slowly, and the mech moves as you would expect. But if you move it a little too fast, right, which is instinctive if you're trying to turn really fast, it doesn't really respond. So I'm gonna move the mouse left and right really fast, and it barely moves, right? It's almost like it's not responsive enough. It's really strange and difficult to explain exactly what's happening. But this is an issue. Other people have mentioned it too. And with a controller, it actually works fine. And I don't like to use a controller for games like this because aiming with a controller to me is like driving a car with your knees. I don't really like it. I find the mouse to be more accurate. Now, it is something that you can get used to in the game, as that's how I've been playing it, is with the mouse and keyboard. But it does need work because it doesn't feel right. And I understand. Obviously, if you move the mouse too fast, the mech is not supposed to turn as fast as you move your mouse, because the turning radius and speed has to do with the type of mech you have. That makes sense, I get that. But this does not seem right either. So yeah, that's the controlling aiming with a mouse issue out of the way. The next issue is that the game can actually be quite CPU intensive during engagements, especially if there's a lot of mechs. Now, you have your own party of 4 people that you control, but sometimes you also get another team of friendlies drop to help you out, and then you also get enemies on top. And as you can see, our GPU utilization has now dropped to 59%, whereas previously I had it locked at 120 FPS with DLAA, by the way. More on DLAA right after this, because there's something fishy going on with that. But as far as, yeah, CPU utilization, this game can be quite CPU intensive during these multiple mech engagements, so that is kind of normal. Also, what's kind of a common occurrence is tiny little hitches. Now, I wouldn't say this game has a stuttering problem necessarily, but it does occur sometimes. And also with loading sometimes, like right before a ship loads in, or mechs come out of a ship, like you get a little hitch. So the game does need a bit of optimization work, obviously, because, I mean, we're using a 7800 X3D here too. I mean, imagine someone that's using, I don't know, an older CPU. I wonder how it would work on that during these encounters. I mean, as you saw, we dropped to like 70 FPS there from 120. What would it be like on like a Ryzen 3600? How does the game even run on console? I've yet to look at it, but yeah, that's some optimization work that they need to do as far as CPU utilization goes. Now, some issues with DLAA, or upscaling for that matter, and I've never actually seen this before. I've been playing the game with all the settings maxed out, by the way, and right now we have it set to 3440 by 1440, no upscaling of any kind, 100% resolution scale, right? Let's take a look at our frame rate here. We're getting, I don't know, 100 FPS. Let's say it's 100 FPS, right? Sitting still. I'd say that's actually pretty decent frame rate. GPU is consuming 330 watts. Very good. Now let's take a look at DLAA, because this is kind of bizarre. So DLAA should actually cost us some performance because you're using the DLSS algorithm at native resolution for anti-aliasing, right? We were getting 100 FPS, 337 watts power consumption on the GPU. But we go from 100 to 170 FPS and 250 watts on the GPU. Now I have a theory that maybe this is enabling frame generation as well, because looking at the image quality, it actually looks more or less the same as 100% resolution scale to me anyway. It doesn't look that much different. Let's take a look at DLSS performance here. So we should be getting a lot more FPS if it's not CPU bound, but we get 175 FPS. Now, I don't know if it's locking it to my refresh rate because I'm using a Alienware QD-OLED display, 175 Hz, so it seems to be kind of locked at that. Or maybe we're just CPU bound in this particular area. I'm not sure. But image quality too here actually looks pretty good to me. Like, it doesn't look that much different than 100% resolution scale. Now let's take a look at FSR quality, just out of curiosity. I want to see what type of frame rate we get. With FSR quality, we get 175 FPS. So again, that's quite a lot more frames. GPU is only consuming 240 watts. Again, guys, I don't know. Can you tell a big difference between 100% resolution scale, DLAA, and DLSS performance? I mean, they look very similar, except with DLAA and DLSS, you get a lot more frames. I guess to wrap up my thoughts, the game itself, I believe, is good. The story is interesting. I want to see these characters succeed, and they're very well voice acted. You can tell that they've kind of been through some stuff together. You start off as a rookie, you turn into a mech warrior and a leader, you get thrown out into the world. There is a story there, characters. that part is good. Where it matters most, you can always fix a game that's good with some issues. You can't fix a bad gameplay, a bad story. So that part, the important part, is there. What needs work though is the controls need attention. As far as the mouse control, I think that isn't working the way it's supposed to. There is some stuttering, and the game is quite CPU intensive at times, and this is with a very high-end gaming CPU too, by the way, right? So that needs a bit of work. And then there's the DLSS and DLAA thing that we just talked about. Some strange behavior there. Now, image quality wise, it's fine, but I don't know what's happening. Lastly, the game on Game Pass needs to be up to par with the Steam version. And I don't know if this is a Microsoft issue. Maybe their version that they demand has to be way too different. I don't know that, but it needs to be up to par, especially for a title like MechWarrior, which has been tied to Microsoft. I think, you know, that's kind of important. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the game. I mean, if you have Game Pass, I would definitely try it. I think the game is pretty good. And if it's on Steam, well, I don't know. I mean, what is it, $50, $60? I think that would be worth it if, you know, the game controls well and doesn't really have any performance issues. But I've been enjoying it. That's going to be it for this video, guys. Leave your thoughts down below. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And give the video a like if you liked it. Consider subscribing for more content. Follow me on Twitter at TerrawarePC. And I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Does it ever cross your mind that your outbursts make us all look bad? Look. I know you're smarter than this. I know you talk the way you do because you want to get under people's skin. And I know deep down, you want to do great things.
I want to do great things. On my own terms. Not chasing down the ghost of a man I've never known.
I want that for you too, but you will never get the chance if you keep this up. All you do is drag us down into the mud with you. And I cannot have that in my star.